Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name's Jade, and this is How to App on iOS. And today we're going to be doing some metal. Yeah, because it's not metal unless it's metal. And I got a very special guest on, a longtime friend of mine, fellow ex-bandmate by the name of Reilly Deacey. And we're going to kick off today with a track from his band called Nekromudgeon. And it's going to be brutal, full on, and all that kind of stuff. Are you ready? Let's do it. Boom! Hey, everybody, what's going on? Welcome to the show. How heavy the hell was that? So, that was Nekromudgeon, and that was Burning the Midnight Spoils. Sounds like what I had for dinner last night. Awesome stuff. And that is the first track of this debut EP from our special guest here today. So, who am I? My name's Jade, and this is How to App on iOS. And every day, kind of, we look at apps and stuff and things and talk about mental health and well-being and have great interviews like we're going to have today. And on the weekend, I do a live performance or three. Who knows? Who knows what happens on this show? So today we have a very special guest, somebody who I know personally. From time to time, I do this on the show. Have somebody on who I've formerly played music with and know quite well, and today is no exception. So this particular person I met when I played in a band called FMC, and we got to talking, and I joined his band, and we played together and caused some mischief. He was in FMC as well, and he's a fantastic guitarist, very sick sense of humour. So if you're into that, God help you all. And funnily enough, we've stayed together as close friends for a very, very long time. I think we met in somewhere around 1999 or something like that. He'll correct me on that for sure, I do believe. Anyway, so he's a guitarist, songwriter, metalhead, and he's very full on indeed, and very metal. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you all to the amazing and cool Reilly Deacey. Welcome to the show. Hey, what's going on, man?
Good morning. I don't know if I can live up to that introduction. It's a bit of a letdown.
You're just going to have to, my friend.
Yeah.
It's done now. It's done. Welcome to the show. Really, really cool to have you on. And I want to touch on this because we've been friends for a long time, yeah?
I believe it was 99.
Yeah,
99, 2000 maybe? Yeah.
Yeah, around that. I think FMC was recorded in 1999, the first album.
Yeah, so it probably would have been 2000 then.
Yeah, close to.
Yep.
Hither, tither, with a nither, fucking whatever. It doesn't matter. But from all my friends too, when I came out as trans many years ago, there were people who I lost as friends, and there's people who have been in my life ever since and it's you. We speak nearly once a week on Messenger, at least. You know, you'll send me some kind of weird amputee porn, and I'll reciprocate with a picture of Rob Halford in Arseless Chaps, and that's how it goes, isn't it?
Maybe.
Maybe. Contrary to rumours.
Yes.
So, hey, I want to welcome everybody in the chat. Thank you all for being here. We'll come around and say hello to you all at some stage during the show, normally after the second song. So thank you all for being here. I can see you're all typing away, and we'll do that soon. I want to hit you with the first question I'll smash everybody in the face with. Ryly, what does music mean to you?
I think music for me is very important. It's something that I have in my life every day. It's the only place, I guess, that I get away from the rest of the world. Yeah. Not that I'm trying to escape anything, but I have a tradition in my duties as a boring house dad. When I'm doing the dishes, I put on headphones, and the rule is don't talk to me because I'm doing the dishes and listening to music. So I think it's the closest thing I've got to religion is music, and I've got to check out new stuff as it comes out, and love passing on recommendations to people and getting recommendations off them. So I guess it's always been an important part of my life since I was a kid. I just responded to it.
It absolutely is. And I know a lot of our conversations, like with Kev Hart, we're in a bit of a three-way circle, and not that way, folks. But we do love our metal. We're very metal centric. You know what Kev's like. Kev, if it's not metal, he wants to punch it in the face. But we're probably a bit more forgiving than Kev. But you're always sending me stuff which I'm gonna fucking like, and it's most of the time it's on BandCamp because that's where all the good metal is. Do you find these days is it easier? Do you find it easier to find the music you like these days in this digital world?
I think it's a double-edged sword. It's a bit of a curse because it's really easy to find, and I can also stuff that I missed when it came out that I'd always heard about that I never had access to. I can find it now, but then in having said that, I kind of feel that I don't have that excitement of when I used to go and buy a CD on the day of release from the city. There's a shop called Smoke Dreams in Melbourne that I used to go to, and then I'd sit on the train and read the liner notes and then listen to it over and over and over again. Yeah. So there's a tendency now, it's so easy that you can just skip through. And there's a lot of stuff, but that's why I kind of like finding more obscure stuff and passing that on to other people that they might not have. It's not necessarily advertised, but word of mouth I think is really important. And curating that with friends will appreciate it, because I listen to all styles of music, but mostly like heavy music's pretty much the majority of it, but I'm very open-minded. But passing on to others is a big thing that I like to do.
Yeah, we're very similar in that regard because, we both do like other styles of music, and we're not afraid to wear that on our T-shirts. Well, that's probably That's probably not true. I don't think I'd wear a Kylie Minogue t-shirt, even though sometimes I do listen to her. But yeah, so it is a thing. I mean, you know, and I grew up in a time where tape trading metal was a thing, you know, because you couldn't get it here in Australia. So tape trading, and there used to be this guy called, Dave Destruction, who you would get a piece of paper, which would have all the latest kind of demos from Carcass and all this stuff, and that's how you got your shit back then. You know, and in a way, we're kind of like at the same place with stuff like BandCamp, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, I guess the hardest thing now, there's so much stuff, it's hard for anyone to stand out.
Absolutely.
But I guess because I've always supported underground music, not necessarily underground like it's got to be brutal and cult or anything, but just independent artists. Because often, like, the stuff that I hear from people that I have seen no advertising for, I've just stumbled across as being kind of the album of the year material for me. Like,
yep,
more obscure stuff of bands who just write good songs and put it out there, and there's no marketing ploy behind it. Or
absolutely, and I do agree with you. With the one thing I do love about Apple Music is all those, because I used to have a massive vinyl collection, and I lost it because when you play in a band, if you're watching this out there, you're very poor. And you're struggling the entire time. Sometimes you can't pay your fucking rent. So you end up selling your albums. And since getting Apple Music, there's been so many like old albums I've gone back, like bands like Mucky Pup and just really old shit that I've dug up. Have I listened to it? No, but I like having it when I flick through and see. It's like having
sometimes better to leave it in the past. Nostalgia's.
Sometimes. Mucky Pup, yes. Let's talk about the music. Do you recall the music that was played in your household growing up as a little Ryly? And who were some of these artists that your parents would have played? And have they influenced you?
Well, yeah, I'm still pretty fun size. I haven't grown too much from then. But, yeah, definitely music was really big in my house. My dad played guitar and still does. And that was like his kind of space when he came home from work. He would go in his room and just zone out and play guitar, and we'd go in and hassle him, and I always think, I don't know why he's not responding, he's just playing guitar, and then realized that that was his thing. And yeah, my dad had a record collection, not to kind of dob him in too much, but he used to enjoy a weeknight drinky poos and would play music very loud, so I'd often have to get up and turn the records off, but I have fond memories of that now, just knowing that was his joy. And yeah, I guess there's a lot of stuff, like I went through Jimi Hendrix, just that standard stuff, but there's a lot of more obscure stuff, like there's a band called Little Feat, who are like almost country rock stuff, but I've got a soft spot for, like, nostalgia wise. It's one of those things, I guess, like I said before, with nostalgia, it might mean a lot to you, but if you show someone else who doesn't get it, they would just, yeah. So I do have my dad's record collection now, which I drag stuff out and give it a spin. Sometimes it's better than I remembered, and sometimes it's not as good. But
it's a story of my life, showing somebody something and they just look at me going, "What?"
Yeah,
I'm sure the same thing happens to you.
Yeah, well, I've learned as I get older to curate my humour and my music recommendations.
Yeah. We'll talk about curating. We'll talk about humour, because it's something we've both been known for, having a dark bit of humour. And when we're put together, sometimes it creates trouble. And we won't go too much into that. Do you recall the first album that you purchased and was given to you as a gift, and what format was it on?
I'm pretty sure the first album I purchased was Blow Up Your Video by AC/DC from Brashes on vinyl.
Brashes, oh my God.
Yeah, I got a voucher, and that was what I bought, I'm pretty sure. And I think the first one that I got given a couple of Angels records from my dad's friend, who was a bit of a rocker. So, but because I'd always kind of tended towards louder music, I guess more immediate, not necessarily metal stuff, but just raucous kind of things.
Yep.
And from a young age, my parents told me when I was about 18 months old that I Love Rock and Roll by Joan Jett came on the radio, and I used to come bolting out from wherever I was, and it really just took me over. I was right into it. So I guess, the seed was planted early for that immediate kind of brash music that grabs you by the throat.
And how can you resist something like that song to make you go crazy? That song still gets me excited.
Yeah. Yeah, Joan Jett's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody who, she reminds me of Slayer in a way, how she's always remained absolutely true to herself and not like sold out like, corporate shills like Metallica and stuff like that. I mean, metal's got more than just the music. I mean, it is an attitude, and that's why she kind of reflects that. Gary Hubbs has written in the chat here, no one says Kiss. Oh, dude, everybody on this show normally says Kiss was their first album. It's so bizarre. I know.
I'm not a contrarian, but I just never got into them. I'm all about it. That's some people's favorite band, but yeah, not my thing.
So you never got into Gene Simmons' The Vault? That was
no. I think the thing that turned me off them was their attitude. That I know they were spruiking stuff. They were very good businessmen, but that turned me away from wanting to hear their music. And I think by the time I had access to it, I was also past that stage of I'd been through Poison and Warrington, stuff like that, but then got into heavier bands by the time I could freely access Kiss, because I never had any records growing up. Do
you remember the first gig you went to?
I do. It was 1988, the Blow Up Your Video tour at the Tennis Centre for AC/DC.
Wow. I
had an awesome stoner aunt who used to buy tickets to shows, whoever was touring in that kind of realm. She would not pay her rent, not pay her bills, so she could take me. We always just clicked. We always got along. I don't know why. She had a really good sense of humour and introduced me to a lot of stuff music-wise. So I was 9 years old, saw AC/DC. I remember going to the toilet there and someone had hurled on the ground and someone else had skidded in it and slipped. And I remember just my 9-year-old self being really impressed that was part of music. She also, in the few years after that, we went to Poison, Motley Crue, Alice Cooper. She was a real big influence in my my life, and I guess probably cemented my love for live music as well.
Which Motley Crue was it? Was it the one with the two nurses in the drum case?
It was Dr. Feelgood, yeah.
I was at that gig too, man. I was at that
with
gig.
The upside-down drums on top of it.
Yeah, and Mick Mars did that guitar solo with all the guitars laying flat that went for about 15 minutes, and it was the perfect chance to go take a piss.
I can't stand Motley Crue now.
But I hate them.
I have fond memories of that.
Yeah. Like, I remember my friend got us tickets, and there used to be this store, people who are watching, anyone in Melbourne will remember this. There used to be this store called Pipe Imported Records. Daniel, very powerful, very evil man. And there was a bar next door to the place down Little Flinders Lane. And it was the day of that gig, and we were hanging out in Pipe Imported Records, and we went outside to hang out for a smoke, and down the little laneway next door, we were sitting there, and there was this little ground. You know how some of those places have like a window that's along the ground because it's the pub's underground, and you could put your arm through the window, and it was straight through to their cellar, and we were just putting our arm through and grabbing beers through the window, and we took like 12 beers out of the window and drank them all, and then went to Motley Crue, and it was great. There you go. I'm a criminal. Yay.
But it got you through Motley Crue, so.
It got me through Mick Mars's guitar solos, barely. But those nurses, didn't they have very big breasts?
Yes, I did have I don't have it anymore. I had the tour, the little book that you got with it.
Yeah.
Had some photos,
Yeah, and it was all just breasts.
Yeah, that was their thing though.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Girls, absolutely.
Yeah. Very woke, very before their time. Women's rights.
And, they're doing so well now. Vince Neil sounds incredible now.
Better than ever.
Yeah, it's like yesterday.
Yeah.
If yesterday was, I don't know, a day where somebody was revolting, fat and gross and just can't sing. If you haven't seen Motley Crue now live, go and do a search on YouTube, and you will be absolutely horrified by what has happened to Motley Crue. It's disturbing. Absolutely disturbing. He's no Rob Halford, I'll tell you that, in any way, shape, or form. So, talking about gigs, do you remember the first local gig that you went to in Melbourne? Because we'll talk about the Melbourne metal scene, man. It's a very important, it's been a big part of both our lives. Do you remember your first metal gig in Melbourne?
Well, my first actual pub gig was a local band called Damaged, who obviously you're very aware of it, but in my teen years, they were like the band, and at that time they were untouchable.
Yeah.
I got to know one of the members through, I wrote to their PO box to find out where I could get merch when I was about 16, and they got a call back. Yeah.
PO box. What the hell?
Yeah. And I got a phone call from someone who just said, "Hey, I'm just ringing up to let you know where to get shirts." And I was kind of like, "Okay, how do you know the band?" And he said, "Oh, I play guitar in the band." So me at 16 was spun out by that. So we kept in touch, just started talking about music, and I was fanboying at the start, but then got to know his name's Chris Hilly. And then, cut to a few years after that, they were kind of having some turmoil, to say the least. So they split up for a while, and they had a final show, and I'd never got to see them. So he arranged for me to be able to watch their show at the Corner Hotel when I was 17 from the side of the stage. I had to kind of just wait outside until they were ready to play, and then got snuck in through the side door and watched them from side stage. And there was other bands, local bands called Bloodduster, Dreadnought, and In Extremis, who, like, to me at 16, that was like the best gig ever. So that was my first ever pub gig. So it was a really good introduction.
Well, that was the thing back then. I remember getting into so many all ages gigs, over 18s gigs when I was young here in Melbourne, because you got to know people in bands and they just helped you get in. And it wasn't like a groupie thing where you had to give someone a blow job or anything like that, like the whole, hair metal scene. I don't know if that was going on in Melbourne. Who knows? It probably was. But in the kind of death metal, grindcore scene, or whatever, hard metal, whatever you want to call it, it was so easy to get to know bands that they would go, "Oh, yeah, we can get you in." And it was easy. I'm sure it would be very different these days with liquor licensing and the pressure of getting sued and all this stuff.
I never had any luck with that. I always looked like I was 8 until I was 25. So, but I think in my high school years, I made a point of checking out local stuff. There was a magazine called Hot Metal at the time, and I think it changed names a few times, but it had a lot of local content. So I would always make every effort to check out these local bands, and my folders at school had all these local bands on it that I later got to know personally, like bands like Abramelin, Bloodduster, Dreadnought, and then so cut to many years later, and they're just another guy that he's at gigs all the time. And I say, "Hey, how you going?"
You're not a guy, are you? Sorry, that's the first one for today. Let's play a song, and we'll come back and chat more about like how you picked up guitar, all that kind of stuff. And we'll say hello to everybody in the chat. So I'm going to play Everlasting Gobstopper. This is called. Do you want to tell us a little bit? Oh, see, why do I automatically just go to Gobstopper?
That's between you and
between me and God.
Yourself, yeah.
Everlasting Godstopper. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this?
I guess it was just a term. I really like puns and plays on word and that kind of thing. And that term just popped into my head one day, and I wrote it down. I was like, I'm going to do something with that one day, because I guess it's about, I'm not as proactive with it anymore about criticizing religion or anything like that. I used to be pretty full on about it when I was younger. Now I'm kind of like, if that's your thing and it works for you, I'm happy with it, but I'm not interested. But I guess it's just, a typical, my feelings on religion in a song. I find it hard when I'm writing lyrics that I'm not a particularly angry person. I get grumpy with things, but it's more everyday things. But bigger issues like, religion's always, and I think with metal, it's just part and parcel with it. But yeah, so
your lyrics have always been kind of topical, but like with a tongue firmly planted in cheek.
Yeah, I just a lot of wordplay. I don't particularly enjoy writing lyrics, to be honest, but once I kind of get a subject and a couple of lines, and I kind of go, oh, that's what we're working with, and go off on it. And I always used to love English at school, so it gives me an excuse to be creative with writing that stuff. So yeah, I guess it's just a stock standard anti-religion song.
Awesome.
No offense to anyone.
All right, so let's play it. I don't think anyone will be offended. So this is Everlasting Godstopper. We'll be back in a few minutes. So grab a beverage wherever you are in the world. Just don't do it at what godly time it is for us, which is 7:30 a.m. And we'll be back in a few minutes' time. We'll say hello to you all then and enjoy the tune. Let's do it now. Welcome back. That was Nekromudgeon, Everlasting Godstopper. And we are hanging out today with Ryly, who is the guitarist from Nekromudgeon. Let's say hello to everybody in the chat, and then we'll get back to the interview. Hello, Joe and Barry Glenn. So if you want me to call out your name, type something now so I can grab you from the list. Hello, Joe and Barry Glenn, Lou Reality, Adam Burst, Thomas Christ, Gary Hubbs, what's happening? Set up by Marshall, hello to you. Who else do I see who's here today? I saw Cy was here as well. Scrolling up to see people. Cy, effing good to see you. The Mix Club is here. Mr. Smith is here as well. I saw Kim, and who else did I see? Lots of people. Tremor Bear, hello to you, my friend. Brad Example, Patrick Chandler. As I scroll through the list, I think I've got most of you who's typed something in the chat. Alex Backus, hello to you. Hope you're all doing really good and enjoying the tunes and the interview today. Russ, what is happening, my friend? There's Russ as well. Hope you got your phone sorted, my friend. Cool. Let's get back into it. I want to find out, when did you find the hunger to pick up a guitar? How did you do so? Did you take lessons? Tell us the deal.
Well, I got my dad, as I said earlier, my dad played guitar, and he used to have them. We had guitars around the house, so I used to just grab them and noodle around with them, and my parents could see that I had a real interest in it. So for my 6th birthday, I got a little I think it might have been half or 3/4 size nylon string guitar, which I've only recently just finally let go of because it was just basically turned into sawdust by now. But yeah, I was just got right into that, and my parents never put any pressure on me to have lessons or anything. They just kind of had it around, and I tinkered around with it for a while. Never really took any lessons. I just picked up things by watching other people, and I still do that to this day. Like I'm appreciative of theory and that kind of thing, and there's a lot of good stuff on YouTube now to teach you stuff. But
absolutely.
But I always found the people that I knew that got right into the theory side of things, it almost spoiled the mystery for them a little bit, which I know that it could be limiting for me because I have my set of parameters which I can add to, but I don't have a lot of the other theory, but I'm happy with that as well. So yeah, after having the acoustic guitar for my 11th birthday, I got an electric guitar, which was an Explorer, a black Explorer, the most metal kind of guitar my parents could find. And I'm left-handed, but it was a right-handed restrung guitar, so it kind of had the big pointy bit pointing down, so it used to get knocked on the benches and stuff a lot.
Yeah.
And I had that. Yeah, I got the guitar rebuilt a few years ago by a good friend, and refurbished, which is really cool. And that was my go-to live guitar for quite a few years, before I kind of got enough money and or birthday presents for building a few more guitars in the collection.
You know, it's bizarre. Because I've played in bands with you, and I always would forget that you were left-handed. It's just until I'd look back, like I was watching a video of us playing Running with Scissors, and I would see the two guitarists on stage, and that's when I'd always remember, because you'd see Hilly's guitar going one way, yours going the other way. I always find this interesting with left-handed guitars. How hard is it to find a good guitar that you like being left-handed?
Yeah, well, it's pretty much you don't stumble you might stumble across them, but it is good that you don't have that temptation to impulse buy, because there's just not the option. And I've only kind of accumulated a few more guitars in the last few years, to be honest. I kind of had a couple that I just stuck with, and I guess because I had a bit of a break from playing live, so I didn't really have any reason to invest in anything like that. But yeah, I do find being left-handed though is kind of cool, because you grow up around right-handed guitars, so I can kind of transpose stuff to play not fully the same, but I can work stuff out flipped around in my head, and I can show people how to play things. But even myself, like, I hate watching lefties play. It just breaks my brain. So I kind of forget when I'm trying to teach other people that I'm working with. At first, they just, what?
Do you remember, who was your first band that you played with as well?
I played in a band called Kokigami, which was Kokigami was a random word. It was based on one of the members had a book, a humorous kind of book of origami that you made that would fit on your genitals, called Kokigami. I don't know if anyone ever tried it out, but it was just a throwaway word, and we needed a name. It sounded deeper than what it was. It sounded like some Japanese ritual or something, but it wasn't.
I don't know. It must be me, but as soon as I heard it, I just thought it was origami with your cock. So
yeah, well, there you go. It was spelled with a K though, so a little bit more tasteful. Yeah. So we formed just out of high school. Me and the singer had been in class together, and he was a metalhead, and I could hear his Walkman going shh across the room, and mine was doing the same, and we kind of looked at each other and got to know one another, and then we were I don't remember how it happened, but we went over to his place on the weekend. We were playing music, and then his brother was there, and his brother said, "Oh, let's play bass." And then they found some guy that was the drummer, and it all kind of came together. And we did a few Battle of the Bands at Preston and things like that. I remember there was a band called Cat Witch who were big in Melbourne a bit later, but they played, I think they were special guests. I don't know if they were part of the battle, but I remember just being at Preston Town Hall, which is a suburb in Melbourne, and they had candelabras and a throne, and I just remember thinking how funny that was to see that in a Battle of the Bands setting. But yeah, we were kind of just finding our feet. It was really rough and ready. Like, I've got a digital copy of the demo somewhere, but yeah, it's pretty cringy. But two of those guys, the singer Michael and his brother Brian, who went by the name Frog, they actually went on to be in the first version of Running with Scissors, who you ended up singing with. So, and Frog, who's now Brian again, went from playing bass really badly to being a very accomplished drummer.
Amazing drummer, yeah.
But I think it was kind of a cool introduction, because our drummer in Kokigami, whose name was Matt, he was into Tool and things like that. So it was a mix of influences coming in with, and we were starting to listen to stuff like Acid Bath that mixed up a bit of heavy vocals but with clean vocals as well. So I think that kind of snuck its way in, and things like Life of Agony and stuff like that. Whereas like I was very metal centric at the time, but all these other influences came in, and I think too it kind of set out my path of the way I still write, with catchiness being the main objective. Like, it can be heavy, but it needs to be catchy and fun as well. Like, I can't just write relentlessly brutal for the sake of it. It doesn't do anything for me.
Absolutely. And it's Melbourne music scene is very incestuous. I think we can both agree on that. Like, if you know somebody, they've normally played with somebody else and played with somebody else, and people get passed around like, you know, a bitch at Passover. But it's interesting because, you know, Running with Scissors, the first iteration of Running with Scissors, you mentioned Brian. Now, his brother was the singer of Running with Scissors. I was in FMC, and I'd been in Despised, a bunch of other bands. And it's weird how all this turned out, because I actually, you mentioned Damaged at the start of this with Chris Hill, and I had auditioned for Damaged to be their singer. Didn't get that part, which I'm kind of thankful these days because of how all that ended. But then, you know, not long after that, I'm in FMC and we meet, and Running with Scissors is going, and Chris from Damage is in Running with Scissors, and it's all just very incestuous. But yeah, I joined Running with Scissors. Do you know, and I mean, you introduced me to Acid Bath, and people, if you haven't listened to Acid Bath, you need to listen to Acid Bath. They're amazing. They're no longer in existence anymore, but I'm pretty sure they're done, aren't they?
Yeah, they only had 2 albums, and then their bass player was killed by a drunk driver, unfortunately, which is horrible. Yeah. But they've kind of still got a really big cult following, and they've hit Spotify and things like that in the last year or so. So I think a lot more people have started to pick up on them again.
So yeah, I joined Running with Scissors probably around, I don't know, 2000.
It was 2001, I remember.
Yeah. Yep. Because FMC had already been touring. You had been on stage with FMC. We gave you a name in FMC, which was Mangina. Your name was Mangina. I was Sister Fister. I'm still Sister Fister in FMC. We had Cock Smoking Crack Whore. We were doing these ridiculous gigs. just total lunacy, and stuff that you can't do now. Like if we went and did the stuff that we did in FMC now, oh my God, be totally cancelled. And I can let's talk about that, because we'll start here, and we'll bring up this. This is part of an FMC gig in April 2001. It was on Good Friday. It was an Easter gig. And we've just finished a song, and you're in the audience, and we call you up to come and sing Sadistic Seagull Fucker with us.
Yep, that was my song.
Yeah, that was yours.
Oh, I didn't write it, but that was my favorite. Yeah.
Yeah, so because it was your favorite, we gave you a name and just said come up and sing it every time that you're at. It wasn't like every time we do a gig, come there. Every time you're at a gig by chance. That's all it really was, because we're so organised. But this is...
Brian, because he's always
here we
in
go.
the house.
This is going to be really offensive, folks.
I want to fucking...
What a great camera view there.
You kind of rap fucking...
There's our drummer,
Asian hip-hop.
DJ Uncle Brian.
Give the count.
Oh, this isn't it. Hang on, it's 18. There we go. There's me wearing a ridiculous dress.
His name's Mangina.
Oh, God.
The funny thing is,
I know, right?
He's not dressed like a queen. You can use cocksmaker's mic if you want. Oh, that'll make you feel gay.
And I still look really metal.
That's all right, Mangina.
And we couldn't afford a
You can
costume
sing
for you, so that was all we had for
I'll
you.
sing with you. I'll just help you in the choruses.
You're not a bloke, are you?
No, I'm not a bloke, I'm a guy. I'm from San Francisco.
There was always a lot of mindless talking in between our songs.
Awkward banter.
Yeah. Always. You hear that chick in the audience? She yelled out,
Yeah.
"Pure anal, you cunts."
Split the EP with a band from Illinois.
Right.
I'm telling you.
Enough of me talking. Let's hear you sing.
Called the story of the sadistic seagull fucker.
Total garbage. There's Ampy.
Big round of applause for Mangina.
Good old Mangina.
He's got a pussy as well. Great. Show me your cat eat.
I mean, ridiculous stuff. Oh, but good fun, and that's kind of how we met, through FMC, and then you asked me to join Running with Scissors. And what was Running with Scissors about? It was your whole concept, wasn't it? Who? Yeah.
Well, I came up with the name. I think we were looking for a name like every band does. We didn't have one for a little while, but the term Running with Scissors I always liked, because it was it summed up my approach to music, of dangerous but fun. So it worked well in that way. And I wanted something that wasn't just standard imposing kind of metal sounding name. because I get a bit over that style. But I guess having said that, Nekromudgeon is a stupid name in that vein, but it works. So basically we formed because the band Damaged, who I'd liked, if we go back earlier when I was a teenager, the band Damaged, after they'd had their final show, they split for a few years and then reformed. And then a few years later, I think it was 99, they had their 10th anniversary show at the Corner Hotel in Melbourne. And I was talking to Hilly there after the gig, and I saw Brian, who was in Kokigami with me. And I hadn't seen him since we played together a few years ago, and we kind of hadn't kept in touch. And we were just talking about doing a band and with Hilly. And then it kind of just naturally came together. We said, why don't we get together next weekend? Are you free? And we did. And Brian said, I play drums now. So we all just ended up in Brian's shed in Preston in Melbourne, in Australia. And we wrote the first song, which ended up on the EP in the first week, and then another song the next week. And it just kind of came together really quickly. And then we ended up getting Michael, who was the original Kokigami singer, in, because he was Brian's brother, on vocals. And then a little while after that, we got a bass player after we'd kind of got our set together, and then started gigging pretty heavily. Yeah. So, so it's weird timing, because I've got a VHS tape of a gig from 2000, I think it is, that I'm getting digitized by a guy this week who's who does a channel called King Bean Archives. And he kind of digitizes a lot of VHS gigs and that kind of thing and goes to shows. So it'll be interesting to see that again. I haven't seen it in over 20 years.
Yeah, I think I've got 4 Running with Scissors gigs on VHS. I haven't digitized them yet, but I can. I have the thing to do it. So
I think we started off as that band Asabath that you referred to before. We wanted to do a similar thing where we mixed clean vocals, screamy vocals with rock and metal, all in one kind of mix. But after a few songs, we fell into our own pattern. I guess it would lean more on the rock side of things, but with the weight and heft of metal, I guess. And it was interesting because Hilly being from a more extreme background and me being into rockier stuff, often in songwriting, I would write more of the metal stuff and he would write more of the rocky stuff. And people always assumed it was the other way. But because I guess for him it was more an outlet that he didn't have in Damage, where it had to be brutal and fast all the time. Whereas, we were more about catchiness and had a real punky vibe to it, which I still think is another thing that comes through in my style of playing, that catchiness and energy.
Yeah, absolutely. And so basically you guys recorded an EP, and then and before you released it, you were looking for a new singer, and then that's when I joined. So you'd recorded all the vocals and everything, and then I joined and we went re-recorded all the vocals over the EP.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do now is play one of the tracks from that EP. So this is Running with Scissors. I'm going to play Spitface Dry Taste because it's one of my favorites. What's your favorite? Do you have a favorite off this EP?
I think they're all different, but Spitface was definitely the most, I guess, evolved song that we did. Like, there's a bit at the end that had 3-way vocals happening, which we hadn't really done on any of the other songs. The other songs are pretty much straight and punchy, which I really like that too. But Spitface had a bit of everything. So I think it really highlights everyone's working at the edge of their capabilities in this song, even though it's not technical, but just energy wise, it was really a driving kind of song.
Absolutely. And so we had these 3-part vocals. So I was the main vocals, then we had you doing like a da, 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 and then Hilly was more of this kind of James Hetfieldy kind of rocky kind of thing, and it just worked. It was really interesting kind of technique with kind of black metal vocals and growly vocals. There's every kind of vocal in there. So this is Spitface Dry Taste. So grab a bevy or do whatever you need to do. May have a piss break if you need to, guys. It doesn't really matter. This is Spitface Dry Taste. Let me cue it up and make sure we're all good to play it and it's all sounding neat. Yes, we are good to go. And we'll be back shortly. Spit, face, dry, taste. Let's do it now. Boom. Hang on, let me do it right.
Boom, boom, boom.
It's weird, man, when I hear back that song, right? Because so I joined the band. We started gigging. Then we went in and recorded. I recorded my vocals. We just released it, and unfortunately, I kind of I screwed up, you know, and I left the band, you know, and I'm just going to confront it now. But it's interesting because it's so strange talking about this now. But that song in particular, I didn't write those lyrics, but at the end, just be yourself. Just be yourself, not someone else, because we all can tell that you're false, false, false. Those lyrics, and I don't know who wrote them, absolutely resonated with me, so much so that they were partly helpful in me deciding to come out and transition.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I felt like I was living a fucking lie, and I had to change my life. And unfortunately, when I did that, I know with you it was fine, like in the band, but with a member in particular, it wasn't fine. And I think he wrote those lyrics. Am I right?
I think from memory, a lot of the lyrics were the first thing we had.
Right.
He had a lot of themes and that kind of things. So I think we kind of rewrote them based on, because the songs were so established, we were so used to playing them that we kind of approximated a lot of stuff that he did. I don't know if we ever proper credited him, but we probably should have.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that I honestly don't remember who wrote that, because I didn't write any of the lyrics on that song.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was interesting that that was just a little catalyst for you. Because I don't know. And looking back at that time, it was a big time for you and for everyone. But it was, I look back fondly and kind of, I'm really grateful that it all came together, that we did get that final product out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and basically, so I came out and I tried to do gigs and was starting my transition, which was weird because I've said this before on this channel. I used FMC as a vehicle to dress up like a bitch for years, and it was all a joke then. But then once coming out and all that kind of stuff, I felt really hard to integrate it into our show, because it was more serious than FMC. You couldn't just blow it off as like a joke. And at the same time, it's weird. I'm just going to talk about this now. I felt like that happening too around that time was going to be a negative impact on the band. And in a way, it's one of the reasons I left, because I didn't want it to affect the band. I felt like I was going to be responsible for creating a hysteria around the band, and not for the music, which is what it was about, you know?
Yeah. Well, I don't think, it's funny because I can only speak for myself, and it was never an issue for me, because I was brought up with parents with an attitude of that everyone, just accept everyone for who they are, and it was never an issue for me because I'd grown up with family friends who were gay, or I probably didn't know anyone who was trans when growing up, but it was just when that happened, I think myself and a lot of people were like, oh, cool, makes sense. It's a shame that you felt that way, but I think too, my perception of that time was also that you needed to work on yourself at the time, so you probably couldn't give any band what it needed while you're kind of figuring yourself out. But yeah, and I think too, I remembered you saying that you had some meetings with people after that you were worried about how it's going to go, like real staunch metal guys, and they were like, I don't care.
Yeah. and I have to clarify, it wasn't the band that I was worried about. It was the audiences. It was the perception of people coming to gigs that I didn't want people to remember the band as, oh, that's the band with the tranny in it. You know what I mean? It was that, because that people quickly find things to label, and I didn't want that for the band. And at the same time, I fucking wanted to be in the band so much. It was such a hard decision. And as you know, I moved interstate to start an entire new life, because that's what had to happen. And it sucks, man, because I really loved the band. I loved playing with you, and I loved all the really good times we had. And it was just bizarre timing how all that went down.
I think it's kind of I always kind of believe it's good to go out on a high as well. We didn't do a lot, but what we did was really well, and it was working. And it's better than, I don't know, being in a band that puts out 8 or 9 albums and it just gets more and more tired, and member rotations and that kind of thing. And the main thing I take away from that band is that so many people that I speak to from that era, they remember us. It didn't feel like it at the time, but so many people are like, oh, I remember seeing you guys. You were great. And I did, I guess because I was just enjoying playing in a band, it didn't worry me if there was 5 people there or 100. But and I think having a mix of rock and metal, we always stood out on a bill, that which was kind of a double-edged sword, because we were sometimes too rocky to get on metal shows, and we're definitely too metal to get on rock shows. But we stood out from a bit. Like if we played with death metal bands, they would kind of blend into each other, but we would always, people you'd see, and I always think too, like, and I don't base anything on gender, but when you see the females in the crowd responding to heavy music, getting into it, you kind of go, yeah, well, we're doing something right, that it's not just about people who are into heavy stuff, that it's opening up, that for other people.
It's interesting, you mentioned about when it came out, how I thought people would be weird about it, but this just goes to show, like, the people in my life who I thought were going to be absolutely awesome were total dicks. And all the metalhead people were amazing because, and that just sums up what metal is. It's more than music. I mean, I should have asked this at the start. I'm going to ask it now. I asked you what does music mean to you, but what does metal mean to you? And I'm going to say it in this voice. What does metal mean to you?
Well, I guess for me, it's always been just a primal thing for me. I just respond to it. Having said that, though, like probably 80% of what I hear, I just don't get into. And there's even bands that everyone's like, oh, this is a classic band. You have to, like, even like, I'm not knocking Slayer, but I never went through a Slayer phase. Like, I get it. And I listen to bands that kind of came after that. But yeah, I've always been, I'm not someone who shies away from going, oh, I can't get into everything because someone else is. But I go by my gut. If I get into it, I get into it. If I don't, I don't. But for me, it's just cathartic, and I think there's an immediacy to it and an honesty. Having said that, a lot of the more shiny stuff around nowadays is very, I don't get into it. And it's not from being older and grumpy with technology or anything, but I just find it's got a sterility to it that has lost a lot of that. It doesn't sound like a band in a room, which for me is what I like albums to sound like and bands to sound like. I remember seeing there's a comedian in Australia, Steve Hughes, who is a metal musician as well, but he did a stand-up routine about metal musicians, and he said it's some of the most amazing, intelligent, articulate people you'll ever meet, and also some of the dumbest fuckwits you'll ever meet. So it's like, which I think is very true. It's like anything, people take it to extremes. And I always found people that, because I love metal, but I don't have to wear a black t-shirt all the time and prove that, because I don't see that as any different as someone wearing the latest fashion item or whatever. That's kind of just you're sticking to this doctrine that you're supposed to do. I still wear lots of black t-shirts, but I don't have to.
Yeah. I mean, I remember growing up, and metal was a savior for me, really, because I didn't know where I fit. And clearly, as it turns out later on when I came out, I clearly, had other stuff going on. But metal was a place where I could actually grow my hair long. And nobody questioned it. Where, like, if you were in any kind of other community or anything like that, it'd be like, oh, what are you, a poofter? You got long hair. But being able to have long hair and be outlandish, like, nobody ever sat there and went, maybe they would have said you're a guy or something like that. But that's another story. But I always found it like this safe haven of I don't know, and everybody understood where you came from. And it was a very, very welcoming kind of scene. People and when we were playing together, I mean, this was around a time where around the world you had places like the people like the PMRC, albums were getting taken off the shelves, heavy metal was under the microscope. Judas Priest were facing a ridiculous court case when those two idiots shot himself in the head, and we were left with that puppet, that talking puppet. Fucking dude, what's his name? Ray Belknap or whatever. So metal was like under the microscope as like causing all this bad shit that was going on in the world. And it just wasn't the case. When you were in it, it just wasn't the case. Everyone was very, not lovey-dovey, but very supportive of each other.
I think because the music itself it's not something you can casually get into. You either like it or you don't. There's not much middle ground. Like there's kind of bands that are a bit softer that you can that people can handle, but then you either start progressing through to heavier stuff or you don't. But I think too, because it's not something that you hear on the radio, you have to seek it out yourself.
Yeah.
So I think there's, and I like being part of something that's not exclusive, but just that it's not for everyone, but the people that are into it really care about it and each other. And having played in bands and inviting friends who weren't into that music, come see my band, and they were really worried. They thought they were going to get beaten up or something. And then afterwards, they were like, oh, everyone was really nice. I was really surprised. But it was kind of like, well, people that come to shows are there to see bands and hang out and have a few drinks with friends and be happy. They're not there. It's not like a nightclub where everyone's trying to impress each other and pick up or anything like that. Well, in my experience anyway, I always went home before any of that happened. But yeah, I know I've had nothing but positive experiences. And it's like any group, you get the extremists or the real negative people. But I think that you go anyway. You look at sport. I'm not a sporty person, and I've seen more stuff happen with people that are into sport than I have people that are into metal.
Absolutely. Sport is one of the sport here in Australia, if you're living outside of Australia and watching this, sport in Australia is so highly regarded, and it's tied heavily in with gambling. And it's they try and make, especially like AFL here, Aussie Rules Football, they try and make out like it's a family sport. But if you've ever been to a game, wow, man, I don't know how it is these days. I haven't been the last kind of 10, 15 years maybe, but Jesus Christ, there used to be some of the most racist shit you would ever hear, and children right next to you and some guy yelling at you, black this, and you're like, wow, man, There's some real dodgy pricks in sport.
Yeah, and I always found it frustrating because that was kind of accepted as that's just part of the culture, and heavy music would often, with people that weren't into it, would have a name of a negative connotation because they think if the lyrics are all based on horror or something, that these people must be like that. And it's like, it's just I don't see it any different as reading a Stephen King book. Like, no one thinks that Stephen King's doing anything that he's written in his books, and that's a small part of it. I don't get in. When I was younger, I used to love the shock value factor, obviously playing with FMC as well.
Yeah.
But like now, it doesn't impress me by default. Like, it's kind of like, if it's there, it's there. But it's just, I have to like the songs as well.
Yeah, totally. And it didn't escape here in Australia too, because I remember at a time I went to one of the local record stores, the main record store, which is like Metal for Melbourne. And on that day I was there, we had customs officers come into the store removing CDs from the shelves. They were removing Pungent Stench, all these albums. Yeah. And I was like, what the hell is going on? And then Couchman, had a TV show about, does heavy metal make you want to commit suicide? And it's like, and they opened with this band Necrotomy, and the first line that was sung in the Necrotomy song was suicide. And they just really focused on all this like suicide. And if anything, heavy metal probably stops more suicides in teenagers than any other thing, because it is this, as we said, it's this almost brotherhood, sisterhood, whatever, personhood of people coming together, feeling like they fit somewhere. And it's not competitive like sport and that kind of thing. So it was quite baffling seeing all these people and psychologists get up and try to pick apart metal. And it's like, fuck, let people enjoy things that make them want to stay alive and have a good time. Like, you know.
Well, I think it's a bonding thing too, because like, I don't know myself, if I see a guy in the distance at a shopping centre in a black shirt, I want to know what it is. And it might be an obscure band that like I like that I never get the chance to talk to anyone about. And you might go, hey, nice shirt. And then you'll have this conversation. And I know myself, I get really excited when I find a metal nerd, or I love horror movies, or a horror movie nerd, because you don't often get to just talk about it. But I like the fact that it's kind of niche and you don't get sick of it. There's always something new to discover. And yeah.
Yep. Just say hi to some people who are here. Hi, Jenny. Hi, Hugh. I think I saw Pete Johns come in. If I have missed you, I do apologise, because I just get into these interviews so much. It is what it is. But thank you all for being here. I think I'm going to play another Running with Scissors song, and then we'll talk about what's gone on in the world in the last couple of years and stuff like that, because there's been some changes in the world and how that has affected music goers and stuff like that. Hello, Dan Eckberg as well in the chat. So I'm going to play Eat the Leash. I was going to play Green Eyes and Ham, but it's long, so I'll play Eat the Leash because it's got some black metal vocals in it. So this is another song from the Running with Scissors EP. This is called Eat the Leash. I can't even remember what this song is. I don't know what it's about. I never wrote the lyrics. I just sung them. So
I think it's just basically about breaking free of anything that constrains you, like eat the leash, like about being tied up, and then just get off it.
all right, let's do it. This is Eat the Leash, Running with Scissors. Let me unpause, get ready to play, and we'll see you back here in about 3 minutes. Boom. Damn. Man, it's so weird. I still remember all the lyrics off by heart. For those songs. Attacking game, soaring high, feel the flesh, feel justified. Such good stuff. I'm so glad that we have it to remember forever.
Yeah, I haven't heard that in a long time, and it really, it's a good capture of what we're doing, I think.
Absolutely. Totally. So I want to talk about because, I mean, you've taken some time off from playing live.
Yeah.
Much like I haven't played. I actually did a gig this year, bizarre enough, at it was a weird gig. Let me tell you that. I don't know if I want to play gigs anymore. But, you've taken a fair bit of time away from playing gigs.
Yeah.
And now you started a project just before COVID happened, which was called Atom Smasher.
Yeah.
So tell us how, when this huge pandemic happened, how this kind of thwarted plans you had to get back to doing music. How did this happen?
Well, basically the break I took, I had my first kid in 2003, which was obviously a big game changer. That was around about the time that I think you'd left running by then, and we were kind of still gigging as a 4-piece
Yep.
sharing split vocals between me and Hilly, the other guitarist. And it would just kind of reach its natural conclusion. And then I had a little break. And so I had, one child then, which obviously takes up most of your time. And so I played in a band after that called Disgruntled Goat. That was like more of a rock band, kind of Nirvana meets Clutch kind of stuff, which I sang in, which was kind of really cool to explore that side of stuff. We didn't do a lot. We played a few smaller shows, but again, like just reached its natural conclusion. And I had a few more kids along the way, and just my last show with them was in 2011, I think. Yeah, it would have been 2011. Wow. So 11 years ago. So I've never stopped playing. I just haven't been playing actively. I had in the time that elapsed, I had a few offers from people to collaborate and that kind of stuff, but I just didn't have the time to offer them. That was never going to work out, which was a shame, because I had a few really good opportunities with people that I really would have enjoyed playing with. But yeah, no regrets there. I started jamming again on what would become Nekromudgeon with a good mate, another Dave. There's too many Daves in the world. Dave Berry, shout out to you. He kind of gave me a push to just start jamming on some old school Swedish death metal stuff, which we were both into. So we just started jamming and throwing some riffs together and that kind of thing in his shed, and wrote a few songs together. We didn't really get it off the ground. We did a few demo recordings. We were just both enjoying playing together, because he'd played in the previous band Disgruntled Goat as well. So we just always had a connection personally and musically. And then he moved house and we didn't have anywhere to jam, and being a two-piece and both having kids, it was just, it was hard to find time or justify the cost of a rehearsal room just to nut out some little songs. So we didn't do a lot with it. And then I kind of, I re-demoed a lot of the songs that we did with some drum tracks, like drum programming, just for the hell of it. I think just for something to do, basically, just to keep a finger in music. And then I had a session. I decided to get a session drummer to do some tracks for me, and I sent him the demo stuff, and he did the session. But the stuff he sent back, it was not really. I'm not a picky person, but he didn't kind of get what I was going for, and had kind of half-assed it, and it needed a lot of editing, and it just wasn't that organic thing that I was used to and appreciated. And so I spoke to a really good friend, Luke Walton, who runs a studio called Danger Tone here in Melbourne. And he's an amazingly talented guitarist and engineer. Mentioned it to him, and he was doing an album at the time in the band that he was in called Blunt Shovel, who are a great Melbourne band who are, I don't know the status of them at the moment. They're kind of on hiatus, might be broken up. I don't know. But their drummer, Dave, another Dave, and there's more to come. But he was tracking their album. So he, being a monster that he is, learnt the demos that I'd done and just tracked the tracks for me as a favor, and just got the EP tracked for me and we sat on it for a little while, and then I ended up raising some funds and getting some studio time, and went and laid down the guitars and the bass, just to have a keepsake of the songs, really. And then another good friend, Dave Saddington, who's been around for years, and again, it all comes back and around. Dave was in the band Damaged for a while as well, that we'd mentioned to earlier. He played in a band called Uncle Chunk that used to play with my name sisters a lot. Yep. Amazing guitarist and hilarious guy. Sorry, not a guitarist. He might be, I don't know. Amazing vocalist. But he, I asked him if he could come and do some session vocals, which he was happy to do. So he was just wanting to do it, do the session, nothing more than that. So I kind of wrote the lyrics, and we went through how the phrasing went and that kind of thing. And he did the EP, and we ended up mixing it and mastering it and put it out. And it went, it just turned out amazingly well, given Luke's talent. And then not long after we put it out, we kind of started talking about, Luke was really pushing to go, well, why don't we do this live? I spoke to Dave Saddington, who had done the drums on the EP, and he was in, and Luke offered to play bass because I played bass on the EP, and it kind of just fell together. So we started jamming on that a little bit, and that kind of progressed to where we were. But yeah, sorry, that got a bit off track. So back to the lockdown thing. The instrumental part of me getting back into playing live actually was there was a band called Grudge around in Melbourne that was like a grind hardcore punk band that I really liked, and had a really punky energy and immediacy, and yeah, they gigged so much, and their singer Frank is just an absolute beast. He's just a really intense vocalist. He's so chilled in talking to him. Like he's intense and a big thinker, but so driven, very driven guy. And he actually, Grudge was kind of going through some issues and weren't really sure what they were going to do. And we spoke about collaborating with that band. And we kind of soon realized like maybe we shouldn't call it Grudge because it's not really the same band as it was. It was, and I was wanting to do some different stuff, and he wasn't wanting to focus on the older stuff. So we ended up coming up with a new name, Atom Smasher, which was just a term that I'd heard. It was quite evocative of the music that we were doing, which was pretty straightforward and punky and grindy and just in your face. No, not much dynamic, but just all on the floor go. So for me, that was a really nice cathartic way to get back into music. It was just there was not a lot of thought into it, just riff, get out, short songs. We had a drummer who was just had basically one gear. He was amazing at it, but just was intense and So cut a long story short, we rehearsed up a set. We got a bass player in, a lovely guy named Terry, who I'd known for years around Melbourne. He played in bands called Order of Chaos, who I know had members who had played in FMC as well back in the day. And Terry also sung in Earth, which was a local Melbourne band who we all knew.
Yeah.
And he really liked the stuff and said he'd play bass. And we got the set done, had some demo recordings done just for ourselves. Nothing ever got released, but we had some gigs booked. And then, in 2019, around May or June, we kind of, started hearing, there's some stuff happening in Italy, and didn't think much of it. And we had gigs booked, I think, in early 2020, which we were more than ready for. And then that got postponed because we went into the first lockdown, and then rescheduled, and then that got postponed again, and kind of just snowballed. And we couldn't rehearse or anything like that. And then everyone had to kind of go and fend for themselves during lockdown. It was hard to work and that kind of thing. So it just kind of reached this natural conclusion, which was a shame because what we were doing was I had real confidence in, and Frank and I just kind of had a discussion about this, just let it go. Didn't work out, but no ill will there or anything. And Frank's gone on to a new project which is called Tongue Scum, who are really good. And he's one of those people that will never not be in a band. He's just so driven. We basically we had one clip out of it, which is on YouTube now, which was a good snapshot of that.
And I'm going to play it right now because it only goes for 1 minute and 9 seconds.
Yep, don't mess about. No fat.
It's in and out just like you want, unless you're hiring a whore. So I can say that because I used to work as one. So, all right, let's play this. This is Atom Smasher called Social Construct. And you ready, guys? Grab hold of your balls, because even if you don't have them, grab hold. This is in your face, and it's brutal. All right, let's do it. Make sure I'm unmuted, and let's go.
Hey. Found a way. Something can build that planet through time and space. Let's just surrender that. Suffering, let the go for you. The shit
blink and you missed it, guys. I'm sure I have some demos of this stuff too that you did.
Yeah, we did some demos that never got released, so I kind of sent out to a few close friends. But they weren't kind of release quality, but
I've got them in a Dropbox still, I think.
Yeah. That's a good keepsake for me. And I've kind of there's a few ideas in there that I've going to be repurposing at some point. Like, as I said, that I don't like living in the past, but then if you've got ideas that were for one project and that's not being used, then by all means, chuck it in the next thing.
So now that you've got kids and everything, you've got a family, has your because let's be honest, back in the day, you were, a bit of a troublemaker, and so was I. And when we were put together, well, we caused trouble.
Yeah,
and not trouble that really ever hurt anybody, of course, because you never want to attack people and make people feel terrible. But we like to be sarcastic and fuck around and have a bit of a laugh, because sometimes metal can be way too serious. So since having kids, are you still that same, I'm going to use the word jocular?
Well, I guess in context, troublemaker. I guess my thing was that I've always been not conservative, but I'm not a risk taker. I don't go out partying. I don't get into fights. I'm not, it's not like that at all. I've just always had a sense of humor where I can see, comedy in the darkest of things at times, which I think as I've grown older, I've kind of, analyzed it a little bit and I guess learn to know your audience, but also that I've matured a little bit, as much as I don't want to admit it. But I think my kids do definitely, humor is a big part of my personality, I think. I don't think it's not that I'm deflecting, and I don't reflect on myself a lot, analyze myself, but I think humor is an in for me. I'm quite an insular person, even though I can be, once I get going, I can engage with people. That's no problem, but I can enjoy my own company, no worries, and enjoy just being alone. But I think humor is it's an instant in with people if you can kind of, and it's not about being a center of attention or anything like that, but I guess it's a visceral reaction. If someone laughs, then it's an involuntary thing. So for me, I think humor's always been a part of me, and even in the music that I write, there's always very tongue-in-cheek element, like that clip you just showed, the clip of the little Latino guy getting booted out of the bar. It synced up to the song, and it's funny. So we went with that. But I think my kids definitely have a sense of humor, which I've instilled in them. Sometimes for the worst, because my middle son, who's 14 now, uses that against me, which is good, because then I kind of know what I go, this is what I'm like to live with, which I need to hear sometimes. So I think, going back to your troublemaker thing, it was never us out on the town getting into illegal activities or anything. I think it was more online, just antagonizing people, poking fun at things, that kind of stuff, which I still do to some extent, but I think I'm a bit more accountable for it and not as haphazard. I am surprised with, looking back at my 20-something self, being quite antagonistic with people. I'm luckier that it never came back to bite me too hard.
It did to me. I remember a gig in Adelaide with FMC when a guy jumped up on stage and punched me in the face. But then we kind of asked for it. We took a whole bunch of penis bread rolls to Adelaide and threw them out to the crowd, and we watched all these guys chewing on these bread dicks and went, hey, look at all these. And I was on stage pointing, going, look at all these guys eating bread dicks. That's not gay. And then one guy didn't like that, and he jumped up on stage and punched me in the head, which is totally cool, man. You reap what you sow. And there's a video of that too. So it's awesome to have it on video. Like the singer of FMC getting punched in the head. Brilliant stuff. But I was not like that either. I never went out to actually physically cause trouble. I was just a smart ass. And,
I'm the same,
Yeah, because that's part of, It's part of being an Aussie in a way, the smart ass culture, you know, and anyone who takes themselves too seriously in this country is just asking to be taken the piss out of, really.
Yeah, well, I guess, and I think for me, because I was a non-confrontational person, it was, and I can look back and admit it now that I often used humour to critique things that I didn't feel confident in facing myself. I don't know, a little barb at things, but yeah, I don't do that as much anymore. Because I don't like. Obviously, there's no value in it. But yeah, I still like to have a laugh, but not at others' expense, really.
Yeah. Let's talk about gear. I'm not really a gear head. When people talk about all their guitars and stuff, I normally switch off because I don't know if you're the same as me in this respect. I see people who are got 25 guitars and hanging on walls and stuff like that. I just go, I'd rather not talk about the gear and hear you play it.
Yeah.
So what kind of gear do you use? Are you still a very simple man when it comes to gear?
Yeah, I've never really been, I guess, to just not having the money to do it. But I've never been someone that needs the latest gear. I've just whatever works for me at the time has been what I've used because that's what's been available. So I still have the same amp and speaker box that I used when I was in Running with Scissors and my band before that. That's still my go-to stuff.
Yeah.
I've bought a few more guitars over the years, just here and there, tax time when I get a good return. But again, it's not for the sake of collecting; it's functional. So yeah, a simple setup where I just use a preamp and guitar straight into my Marshall, pretty much, and that's how I've always done it. Since doing the latest band and having Luke, who owns a studio and has a lot of cool amps and stuff I can borrow, we've experimented a bit with, borrowing some equipment, which I'll be using, live, which is really cool because the stuff I could never afford myself. But and I've always really liked seeing bands that have limited resources that just do as much with it as they can, rather than being impressed by the bands with the biggest, shiniest equipment. Because so I've always found it a bit of a letdown with, when you see someone sets up this massive drum kit and has these stacks of amps and you just go, but the songs aren't very good.
And I think, you have a very distinct sound. I think a lot of people in around the Aussie metal community, and I think even people here who have watched the show today, across the board with all this stuff that we've played, different stuff, you can hear you've got a very distinct sound. And I think sometimes when bands constantly updating their sound and trying to get a better sound, they lose some of that thing that made them good in the beginning. Every time I hear your sound, I know that's you. And, I know one of your favorite bands is Entombed. You've got a very Swedish metal kind of guitar sound. You've always had that. It doesn't, it's not Entombed, but it is a very distinct sound that you have. And it astounds me that you still use that same gear to get that exact same sound, where other people are, get a huge pedal board and all this stuff. And it just amounts to more gear. Trust me, I know since setting up this show, I've got too much gear at the moment just to do this show. So what pedals, are you using guitar pedals?
Yeah, well, even though you're probably not interested personally, but if people want to know, at the moment I used it's like a little Moore, which is a really a good budget brand. It's got some really good stuff now. A little Moore preamp pedal that emulates a PV amp, but I run that into my old JCM 800 Marshall, and together they kind of really blend really well. I don't like really overdriven. I like overdriven guitar, but not complete. What I like to call angry bees. I don't like that. I like a bit of control because I think I've got a lot of rock influences, which is like Entombed, that kind of thing, and need that control. At the moment, the live stuff that I'm using, that I'm borrowing, there's a amp. It's made by a guy called Sherlock. It's Sherlock Amps, who are a Melbourne brand. They're amazing quality stuff. Just a tube screamer pedal, which guitarists will know. Tube screamers do this thing. They just tighten up your sound. I don't know what it does, but just really simple. And I don't change that tone up much during the song. I usually change the sound more through dynamic or playing. I guess if it's something's a bit quieter, I just play it a bit lighter because I like just to be able to set and forget, I guess, and then there's less things in the mix to be complicated.
Absolutely. And in regards to recording, you're still like in the very much the mindset of going to recording studios, aren't you?
Yeah, well, I've got, as you know, like you cringe every time I mention my home recording setup.
I don't cringe. No, man. Cool.
Yeah. No, well, I've got for demo recording at home, I've just got a simple Adobe Audition, which I've used for like probably 20 years, and it's not really much past the version that I started with. And I use that and use Fruity Loops to program drums with some free VST stuff, and have a Moore cab sim pedal, which is really good for demoing it. The kind of so you plug DI in and can get a good cab sim emulator just for demos, which I always find really handy because you can produce full songs and send it off to other band members and they can learn them, tweak them as they go, but the full song's there. And I like to record with 2 guitars panned as well, just fills out the sound. But yeah, for anything that I'm going to release, definitely studio for me, which obviously is not a luxury that I can do all the time given the costs involved. But yeah, going to my friend Luke, who has the Danger Tone Studios, he's just the best guy I've ever worked with. He's just so chilled. And every person that I know that goes there has the same experience where there's no pressure, that red light fever that people that are recording know. Once that light starts flashing and you know that you're going, something comes over you, which is really hard to throw, but he just makes it really simple. And when you make a mistake and you can start again, he just keeps everything calm and knows when to kind of push you to take a break and that kind of thing. And also gets amazing sounds and understands. He's very much from that 90s era and early 2000s era too, about he uses technology but doesn't want it to become the focus. Very much about organic sounds and just making a live band sound good in the studio.
Absolutely. And like I say it on this channel all the time, it's not about the gear or the software. It's not about that because, I mean, I steal Pete Johns' phrase all the time. It's all ones and zeros these days anyway. It doesn't really matter. It all comes out the same. It's like taking the a different shit in the same toilet. It's the same thing, you know, so it's not really about that. I remember, like, I still have Cool Edit 2.1 on this computer that I use. And funnily enough, if I need to open something really simple and quick on my computer, it's always the go-to instead of Reaper because it's super fast. And you can
that's why I've stuck with it, because that was where I learned. That was my first foray into digital recording. And it's pretty much once you have it configured, it's just arm a track and go. Yeah. And there's a lot of EQ settings that can just make stuff audible. And you're not mixing in something that you're ever going to release, but you can send someone a file and they go, oh, I can hear everything that's going on there. And yeah, I've toyed around with Reaper and stuff like that, which people have recommended, but I think just getting used to that interface, and I'm behind the times with that, but for me, I'm not interested in keeping up with that stuff for myself because it's not, if the older stuff does what I need to do, then that's what I use.
Absolutely. It's the way it should be. So Nekromudgeon was recorded in a recording studio. Yep. And how long did this take? What was the process of it to get all these songs down? Like,
well, funnily enough, the drummer, who's our sorry, I'm just saying goodbye to my daughter. She's going to school.
Bye.
Sorry, I've got to hand over my car keys.
I thought you were getting hit up for the wallet.
We're breaking the fourth wall.
I thought it was the wallet, man. I thought,
no,
hey, can I get some money?
That was earlier.
All right, all right.
Sorry, where were we? Yeah.
She said she was going to have an impact on the show. There you go.
Yeah. No, that was, yeah. Yeah, so basically the drummer who's the current live drummer, he's one of the most talented people I've ever worked with. He can learn stuff on a dime. He fills in for bands with a week's notice to do a live show. They'll send over demos and he listens to it in the car, has one jam with them and knows everything. So when he recorded the EP, we'd never actually played together in a room. He learnt that the demos that I did, and then they used the guitars that I did for the demos as guide guitars and laid down the drums. So a little bit of time elapsed between when that was recorded and when I got in there to do guitars. Just I think because of lockdown, and I was just getting the money together to book out some studio time. And then once we did it. I think we did guitars and bass in 2 days because I was pretty prepared. And obviously double tracking to yourself is really easy because you know the songs. And I guess I don't have a lot of a studio experience, but that old advice of just being prepared when you get in there. Don't go in there without knowing your songs. So then after guitars and bass were done, we had a little bit of time elapsed before we could book in again to get the singer in. So I got the singer Dave to send him some lyrics. Dave's amazingly talented, but not super organized at times. I'm saying this with love. We recorded the vocals with me, a microphone next to him, and giving him prompts about how to do it. But it turned out really well, and now he's learnt it all live. And Luke, who's the bass player as well, he mixed and mastered the whole thing. So he's had a long-term investment in the band. So when it comes to playing live, he knows the songs. He's heard them more than I have. So, and just getting people that I'd had around me for years. Again, what we were saying, that sense of community. Everyone who was involved was someone I knew from back in the day, in the late 90s, early 2000s, which at the time I didn't realize was kind of like that was the golden years of that kind of music for me in Melbourne before technology kind of took a lot away. But like it makes things easier, but also it was kind of more DIY aspect. And the artwork was done by Adam Glynn, who was the original singer of local band Frankenbach.
Yep.
Another guy I'd known for years, and he collaborated on that. And I had some guest solos done by John Sanders, who plays in a band called Alarum, who I'd known for years. And he's a bit of a celebrity around Melbourne with his involvement in the metal scene as well. Lovely guy and amazing guitarist. So it was just, for me, it was kind of after being so long away, it was really nice to have this culmination of so many amazing people that I love being in a room with. We didn't have that bitterness that happens in bands where you're just sick of being around each other.
Yeah,
it was
totally.
We all rediscovered, I just like being around you and playing this music, which is what it's all about to me.
Yeah, I had Adam on the show. He's been on here and interviewed Adam, and he's just released a new EP as well. So that's really cool. It's good to see him doing music again. So now that your EP's dropped, there's a link up in the top of the chat and down in the description if you want to go and check it out. Go and check out Nekromudgeon. Go and check out Running with Scissors. All the stuff that we've played today is linked down below, folks. So go and do that. It'll soothe your soul. It'll make the internet gods happy, or whatever it is, whatever. And you've got a gig coming up now. So after 11 years of not playing, you're finally hitting the stage this weekend. So tomorrow, isn't it? Yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah. Saturday the 30th. Yep.
And who are you playing with? Let me try and read these.
I'll translate for you playing at home. It's Nekromudgeon.
Yep.
A Frankston kind of young death metal band. Hormagaunt, who are kind of a deathy doom band. Bludger, who's just kind of really straightforward bogan kind of thrash stuff, which is really cool. And us, who play, I know we call ourselves death metal, but I think there's a lot more going on there. It's definitely got a rocky vibe to it as well. Again, like I can't shake that style of writing. I think rock's always an influence on the stuff I do, which I don't have a problem with, because I like to do music that's enjoyable to me to listen and other people. So if other people like it too, that's great. So we've been rehearsing hard for that. Trying not to get sick this week, which touch wood, hopefully I'll be okay tomorrow as well. But I'm feeling definitely confident about what we're doing and really looking forward to it. We've got a lot of people that we know that through myself and through the other band members that are really keen to come down and see what we're doing. So that's really nice. I think it's just nice to do it with no stakes. There's no, we're not trying to prove anything. We're just opening a show and enjoying it, and hopefully other people will too.
Yeah, and it's getting increasingly hard now because there's heaps of more cases happening here in Australia of the dreaded flu, and now there's monkeypox as well. And who knows what's next?
Yeah, and I work in the disability sector, so I've been in full PPE at work for a long time, and I'm really careful in my personal life as well. I've got relatives who are immunocompromised and that kind of thing, so I don't go to as many gigs as I probably would like to these days, just because there's that risk factor, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm hoping I'll be okay after Saturday. I don't want it to let the world stop music, because I think it's really important that we do that.
Yeah, it stopped it for far too long. So this is happening at the Bendigo Hotel tomorrow. And, I like seeing this, man. Tickets, $20, 25 at the door. Does this mean bands are actually going to get paid some money?
I don't know. Cool. I didn't have anything to do with the pricing. I think I know myself, like my pricing point for everything is set in 1999, unfortunately. So I'm constantly going, what?
$8, man.
Yeah, but I see $20 or $25 for local bands is more. I think it's more than reasonable.
Oh, absolutely.
Not trying to sell the tickets for the show, but and I think 2 venues now have realised they can't charge $10 for people to come in. They've got to pay staff, and it's a big thing. And I think you blow $20 on anything in an impulse, I think. So for me, I pay $20 to go and see a band. And that's what I like about being into smaller and local bands predominantly. I don't go and see Ed Sheeran for $180. I'll go and see a US band for $35, $45. So
I wouldn't go and see Ed Sheeran for $2, but that's another story. So sorry, it's just not my bag. It is what it is, Hey, don't be upset if you like Ed Sheeran. That's your cup of tea. I just wouldn't go and see it. All right, so we're at the end. Hey, I want to thank you for being here. I've got one more question to ask everybody who comes on the show. It's not a hard question. It's actually a loaded question that has a very simple answer for a simple person like all of us. We all just so this is if someone was considering becoming creative, when would you suggest they start?
I think whenever. I think for me, creativity, it's unfortunate you can't turn it on and off.
Yep.
So sometimes you'll be occupied with work or whatever else, and you'll have an idea and you've got no way of doing it, which I've got a lot of ideas on my phone through voice recorder where I'll be out and I'll think of a riff or something, and then I'll have to get it down there and then sometimes you have the time to do it, but you're just not in that zone. So I think just don't wait, just do it. I recently bought my 14-year-old son his first guitar because he's been showing an interest, and it's right into video games, which is fine, but also been getting into music. So I kind of did what my dad did and just took notice and said, here's a guitar, let's fool around and just get familiar with it. And I learned a lot just noodling with it, trying to emulate what other people did, and it's really nice to see him doing the same thing. So yeah, and I think anyone who gets encouraged to do it, if they show an interest, just get a guitar. Like they're not hard to get, or whatever instrument, or singing, just do it. That's all you can do. And I think some people they find out they're more naturally inclined to music and feel that it buys into them and they get it. And then other people just find that it's not really for them. They like listen to it, but yeah, like anything in life, you just got to go and do it. And my getting back into music was very much a catalyst of I kind of had these offers, and I for a while went, no, I won't do it because I don't have time. And then but I went, let's just do it. And then now I'm back playing live, which to me, if I play one show for the rest of my life, like that to me is an achievement. I've done that again, and it was really nice. So.
Well, here's to many more shows. I'm so glad that you're back gigging, because it was a crime that you weren't in a band and out there playing, because you write such great music.
Thank you.
And I'm so privileged to have been able to play in bands with you and be a part of what you create. And I'm not just, you know that I'm not just talking shit, because I remember my time in Running with Scissors as being just fucking awesome. Just great music. It opened my eyes to even more music. Like I said, I didn't even know Acid Bath was until I joined, and that just again opened more doors to more music, more different stuff, and that's how I've always been. Soak up this stuff that comes your way, and don't just be trapped in one kind of thing. And this new stuff, this Nekromudgeon, is fucking sick, and we're going to go out and play one more track from it today. I want to thank everybody for being here in the chat. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out. If you're watching on the replay, thank you. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, do so. There's hit the like, please, on the way out. It helps with the algorithm and all that kind of stuff. I want to also thank our Wart Warriors, who are paid members here on the channel. Thank you guys for being members and all that jazz. I won't be back here. I've got a day off tomorrow, and then we'll be back on the on Sunday here in Australia, which is Saturday for most other people. And this is the show that is coming up next on the channel. I need to let you know it's this one. There we go. Oh, that's a bit wrong. We'll go here. So the opening hour is happening on next, where I'm singing community covers from a whole bunch of people in the community, like Joe and Barry Glenn, Josephine DeSmith, Auntie G, Cy Effin, the Chandler Brothers, Glenn Clark, Maffey's Garden, Darren Anderson, Russ 8889, and Pete Johns, which is going to be really, really cool. Let's come back over here. Boom. There we are. And guys, all of Ryly's links are down in the bottom, so please go click them, go support his music, go download some stuff. His BandCamp is there as well for Nekromudgeon. And yeah, that is
just
it.
a thing with the BandCamp too, all the proceeds from that go to the St. Vincent's Cancer Centre.
Oh, yes.
My wife had had some treatment there a few years ago. So it's a place that I'm really passionate about. And yeah, I do music because I love doing it. I'm not under the illusion of making any money. So yeah. And if anyone wants to chuck a couple of bucks, it's going to a good cause as well. Don't even have to listen to the album.
What do we do? I'll just do it now, shall I? $5 AUD. I'm already on the Nekromudgeon thing. There we go.
Yeah.
I'm already. Oh man, now I have to do.
Yeah, don't sign into that.
I can do it now. It's recognize my face. I'll just do it off camera. Recognize my face. Do it. Done deal. I have now, let's see, pay. Go through, use my PayPal balance. Let's do that. Complete purchase. I love doing this live on the show. What have we got? 4 minutes. Perfect. There you go. I am the proud owner. Oops, wrong screen. There we go. Congratulations. Going to a great course because, you know how much I love you and your beautiful wife, and I'm so glad that she's doing much better now. And cancer research, of course, is something seriously.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it keeps our amazing people, our friends, our loved ones alive, and that's what we want. So I'm going to go out now with another Nekromudgeon song. Let's cue it up. I'm going to do Caring Impaired. Anything you want to tell us about this song before I hit play?
I think that song's just about not giving a shit what people think, basically. And it's not like the snotty punk kind of vibe for me. It's just, I know I found when I was younger, I used to take things to heart, and after a while you kind of go, if there's someone I don't like that's being critical or I find annoying or anything like that, you just let it go and don't care. It's not that I don't care about anything, but I put my care into things that matter and not worrying about difficult people.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ryly, for being here. Stay on the line and I'll catch up with you after the show ends. This is Caring Impaired, and thank you all for being here, and rock on. Boom, as Hippie would say. Let's do it right now. See you later, everybody. Bye-bye. Remember, do the things that make you happy. Mistakes make you better, and we all rise together. See you later. Pete Johns is up next. Hang on the line and you'll be dumped over there.